Welcome back to the C-Suite. I'm Danielle Jaworski. So, in this episode, our next guest is on a mission to help organizations to really end burnout. This is going to be a great conversation because this is a topic that is trending regardless of what industry you're in and what level you're at in the organization. Bonita Eby is a burnout prevention strategist. And again, she's all about helping individuals, especially women in organizations, to decrease the overwhelm and to really thrive, not just survive in the workplace. So, welcome, Bonita, to the show.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me on, Danielle. I love your show.
Thank you so much for that. And I really love your work because burnout is something that so many people are experiencing, especially women. But really, for the context of this conversation, can you please share with us what what burnout is related to the work that you do?
Sure, absolutely. Well, according to the World Health Organization, burnout is a result of unmanaged, overwhelming stress. It's stress that continues to go on over and over without an end in sight, and it becomes unmanageable. It's at that point that the chronic stress can lead toward burnout. And like many things, there are extremes. They're the very, very first symptoms of burnout, all the way to what we often call the crash, where people cannot actually function anymore. So I want to be able to help both individuals and organizations catch it in those very early stages or prevent it altogether so that we're not dealing with people having to resign from their jobs, having to retrain, having to rehire, recruit. It costs organizations a phenomenal amount of money to do that, let alone the lives that are hurt by burnout. So I truly am on a mission to end burnout. I've gone it through it myself. I've recovered. I've researched it, and I am here to really make an impact.
Oh, I'm so glad you're here to really talk about this topic that, again, is so relevant right now and to share with us some tips that you have as well. So, really, let's kind of step back. You're saying there you like to work with individuals and organizations to prevent burnout in the very early stages. Can you share what those early stages can look like?
In the beginning, oftentimes what happens with burnout is that overwhelming stress just starts creeping up over and over and over again. And what people might find is that they become exhausted. They used to go out on the weekends. They used to spend a lot of time doing activities, and all of a sudden the weekends are now spent on the couch. They're no longer doing the things that they used to be able to do. They want to be with their children, but they find that they just have no capacity at the end of the day. Oftentimes they start getting weird little illnesses, maybe a rash on their chest, maybe acne coming on their faces that they're just not used to. But what happens when you go through the stages of burnout is you go from having minor illnesses to very major illnesses, and it can lead to things like heart attacks and stroke, even in very young women.
And so these are the beginning kind of symptoms of that. So, from an individual noticing it, from the leadership side of it, what are some early stages of burnout that a leader might be able to pick up on and then obviously take action to minimize and circumvent?
One of the things I often tell leaders to watch is when their people are no longer passionate. When they used to have a drive and they were really, really passionate and felt purpose and meaning in their job. And now they just don't care. And it's not that they have given up, it's just that they are so drained, they have nothing left to give. To me, that's a major thing. Also, again, the sick days. When someone always came to work, they did a great job, they were engaged, and now they're dropping off. They can't keep up. They're taking a sick day after every major push. That is a huge warning sign. And as a matter of fact, I have a free burnout assessment that I encourage both individuals and leaders in the marketplace to use.
And so when people are starting to feel these feelings of overwhelm and burnout and stress, what are some tips that you have to help lessen that?
Yeah, on an individual level, let's talk about that tonight. One of the things I recommend is to learn to recognize stress in your body. You see, whenever we experience stress, no matter what the cause is, whether it's a ding from a text message or it's a saber-toothed tiger coming after you, it's literally the same stress response in your body. Your amygdala in your brainstem gets triggered. It tells your adrenal system to start out pumping out cortisol and adrenaline into our bodies. Now our hearts are beating fast. Instead of having deep diaphragmatic breaths, we find that we're chest breathing and we aren't able to think correctly because we're not getting the same amount of oxygen to our brains. When we can become aware of our bodies having these kinds of reactions, we can then make a difference. So one of the things I recommend is to then ask yourself, so you've noticed that you're not breathing correctly. First thing to do is ask yourself, what is my thought? Now, you might think it's intuitive, but oftentimes we have automatic thoughts that are going through our heads that are actually causing that cascade of cortisol. So oftentimes I'll literally close my eyes and say, what is my thought? And go with your gut, because what that is often exactly it. And then you can think about it and change your perspective. The second thing I recommend is to begin to deep breathe. So just the same as your brain tells your body to go into fight, flight, or freeze response with that cortisol and the adrenaline, our bodies can actually tell our brains that it's no longer necessary. It's amazing. It's a biofeedback mechanism. So if you take long, deep diaphragmatic breaths, counting in for 3, breathing out for 4, that will actually bring your system down to rest.
And do you have any tips for anything around electronics?
Shut off your notifications. Now, I recognize just by saying that, I probably have caused stress in a few of our women. But bear with me. Let me tell you why. Because every time a ding of a text message comes in, the ping of another email comes in, or a notification from Messenger, every single time that happens, it disrupts our thinking. It triggers that amygdala in our brainstem, and it brings in that cascade of hormones like cortisol and adrenaline, preparing our minds, bodies, and emotions for fight, flight, or freeze. And that is, we're meant to do that in order to survive. But when it happens over and over and over again, this is where burnout comes into play. And I would encourage everyone to try these 3 things. Deep breathe, think about what your thinking is, and try to change some of those thoughts, become aware, and then turn off your notifications.
What I really like about these tips, Bonita, is the fact that there are things that you can do at your desk. Like you could be sitting away at your desk and just, oh, I have a thought. Okay. And think. And then you can deep breathe at your desk as well. Like you don't necessarily have to leave or get anything special or an expensive gadget to help you to do this.
Our bodies are amazing, and just simply by using them the way that they are meant to be used, we can calm all of those stress hormones.
Oh, it's wonderful. Thank you, Bonita, so much for having this conversation with us and really helping to share these tips on how women can decrease the stress, the overwhelm, and really increase the focus and their ability to thrive, not just survive in whatever role that they are doing. So thank you for being here on the show today.
Thank you so much, Danielle. And I'd encourage all of our listeners to go to my website and download the free burnout assessment. And I believe the link will be in the show.